Hello, friends, and welcome to our first ever What's the Strat episode live. I am your host, Evie, aka Cute Noob, and I have a very, very special guest with me. Before I do the honor of saying all her accolades and letting her yap away, let me remind you what the goal for What is the Strat is. It is a podcast for female and female identifying who want to get into the world of gaming but have no idea how to, or just need a little guidance because we can all use a little helping hand. And my goal is just to interview all the ladies who are already successful in the gaming industry and kind of showcase all of their highlights as well as seeing what they did in order to get to where they are. And hopefully, with that, you will get a strat or two on how to get to that position. I have a very special guest, Heather sapphiRe. How are you?
Hi, I am good. I'm really excited to chat with you. This has been a long time in the making, and we finally made it happen.
Yeah, it was quite a struggle because the universe was saying no. Like the last time we had it all planned out, we were ready to go, but the universe had different plans. And I am a huge proprietor of listening to the universe. And I was like, you know what? Just going to let it be. When it is meant to happen, it's meant to happen. And I've been wanting to. I was like, Heather not only has been in some of the top roles. I mean, you've been a professional CS:GO player. You've observed. You were the VP for Dignitas. Then you went on to observing BCT, and now you're the founder of Radiant. How does that? Like, I'm saying all this, and you're sitting there. How does it feel?
It's always interesting when, you're in a meeting and everyone wants to do introductions, and especially when I'm talking to brands and I want to hype myself up and get them excited, but I'm like, where do I start? Because it's a lot of titles, and a lot of those titles are still like accurate today too. I don't know. I like to keep busy. I'm truly addicted to esports and women empowerment events and opportunities. So yeah, it feels it's an honor to have all those titles. It's exhausting, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, I can only imagine having all those, but it sounds like to me like you have it all figured out. Like, did you always know after this you were going to do this? Like, what was it like in the midst of it, like transitioning through all these things?
I did not know I was going to do any of the things that I do. It was all happy accidents along the way. I mean, I think being a pro Counter Strike player was the really the only like plan I had, because
Mhm.
I committed years and years and decades to being as good as I could. But everything else, like on the professional side, I didn't picture myself working in esports. I'm older. It didn't seem like a viable career path many years ago when I started doing observing in Counter Strike and then to Valorant. I didn't even know what observing was when ESL asked me to
Oh.
do it for one event, and I figured it out along the way. And then, I had a little inside track on Valorant, and I guess that one was a bit of a plan. I saw this game coming out, and I thought I had a lot of potential for it. But yeah, a lot of these were happy accidents. Same with Radiant too. It's like I was working with Dignitas, and I came into Dignitas because I was playing with our mutual friend Emily, and Dignitas reached out to us to join their organization. And with my marketing background, I kind of fell into a marketing position with them after my playing days were done, and we started, supporting um, women's events, initiatives, panels, things like that. And I
Mhm.
started to ask myself, what more can I do? And then combining that with like my new love for esports production and we asked Riot and we asked Psyonix, hey, could we do events for you? And they said yes, and we did them very well. And we're like, wow, I think this is a business. And then Radiant happened. So a lot of different happy accents to get to where we are.
Well, I want to touch up on your first moment, right? Which was becoming professional in Counter Strike. Like that was a time where women were not known to be as quote unquote great as men. So what was that like, and how did you go about battling those stigmas?
Yeah, I think you know, it, it, it didn't necessarily bother me at first that I was kind of the only woman in the room. Like I grew up as someone that loves sports too, and that was often the case as well. Um, but I think what did bother me was the doubt about my skill, especially because my brother at the time was one of the best players in the country too, and especially when there were events that were played at home, there was always questions of whether it was actually my brother playing and not me. And I think that bothered me the most because I knew I was playing well and I knew I had a lot of respect from top players, but you kind of show up into these tournaments and, people question that a woman could be as good as she is. So that frustrated me, but, I definitely I put everything I had into traveling to lands. Um, every extra dollar I could find, I was using it to go to tournaments, and I was willing to sleep with 7 people in a hotel
Oh
room, or,
gosh.
very famously, I think 4 of us slept in a car in Montreal in the middle of
Oh my
winter, which
gosh.
I look back, I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I just ask my parents for some money? But I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to prove that I could do it. And so, I scrapped by and made it work and showed up to these lands and did pretty well.
That is insane. Well, you're so humble. You're like, I did pretty well. But let's talk about the big moment, right? You won in 2021 the Esports World Cup. Or sorry, in
2012,
2012.
2012.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what was that like? And how did it what was the process getting there, and talk
Yeah.
about like maybe the emotions?
Yeah, so it was interesting to get there. So that was the first year of CS:GO, and I had started Counter-Strike in 2002 or so. Um and so like the 1.3, 1.5, 1.6 days, and did pretty well at that game. But for whatever reason, my group of local friends had committed to Counter Strike Source at the time when it came out. Um, and so I kind of just split in that direction. And that was it was a hard time. Like the communities were divided. It was so weird to have two like completely different, very similar games, but like different communities and everything. But I
Mm,
kind of took the source path, which, um, you know, it, it left me out of things like playing in ESWC with all the women's teams, which, I was sad that I missed out on. Um, but I also played in more co-ed events, and I'd made it to like the ESCA Invite League at the time, which was the top league, and I was the only woman in it. So like I did really well there, but it still would have been like pretty cool to play in these women's events. So Counter-Strike Global Offensive came out in 2012. Um, and I had gotten to know, um, especially like Potter, who's now the
mhm,
coach of EG. Um, she played a little Counter Strike Source too. She was very good in both games, and that team, her team, they were SK Gaming for a while. They were GX3. They became UB United, most successful women's team of all time. They needed a fifth, and I tried out, and I made that team, and we went to the World Championship. We got to the grand finals. We played pretty terrible in the first map and lost it, and then
oh
pretty terrible
no.
in the second map and had an incredible comeback, and then pretty terrible in the third map and had an incredible comeback and won a world championship. And I just like, it was several years after that, people were still talking about that comeback, and it was pretty fun. But I remember like falling to my knees and crying, and like the USA national anthem is playing and everything, and the crowd is kind of booing us because we're in France and we had played
Oh
against a
no.
European team. But that was fun. That's part of it. It was
That's so
amazing.
epic. That sounds like such a core memory. Like, had you decided to go the other route, right, and stick with the original Counter Strike and play in the women's league, do you think that would have maybe changed your path a bit potentially?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, you set it up top, like, big believer in like the universe has a plan for you, and
Mhm.
it's so funny because I think about that a lot. Like every connection I've made in esports has like led to something else and led to something else and led to something else. And so like I don't know. I don't know if I didn't play Counter Strike Source, would I have met the same people that I did and then found my way? I don't know. I question that a lot, but it could have taken a very different path. But I'm a big believer that all everything happened for a reason and led me here today.
So let's dig into like your dignitas period, right? You finished playing professionally for Counter Strike, correct? And correct my timeline at any point. You're like, hey, that's off.
I mean,
Um,
it's the thing is, it is a fuzzy timeline. I come back in and out of things, but more or less, I'm kind of done here with playing.
wait, are you sure? Because I don't know. That sounded like we might potentially see you.
I do ask myself sometimes. I'm like, should
Ooh.
I? Should I? But
I
yeah, more or less with the Dignitas thing, I put in maybe a couple more months and then called it quits on the competing part.
I see. And what was the Dignitas part? Because then you were, people could say you were the star, right? When you're professionally playing. And now you went into a more talent managing. What was that like? Was it difficult or was that easier for you because you had already the knowledge of being the player and now you get to work with some players?
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was very hard at first to go to a tournament with um a lot of my teammates that I used to compete with and not be able to play. I think there was some crying in the bathroom once at an IEM
Mm.
Katowice because I wanted to be in and felt like that was a part of me. Um, and it's also so much harder to watch because I have no control whatsoever of the games beyond like maybe I could get them an extra water or something. But yeah, it was definitely hard the first year, I think. But I still found a lot of enjoyment like getting to know other games too and work with different communities. And I think, we got a Rocket League team in 2018 and getting looped into Rocket League and meeting so many women there and having a world championship winning team as part of Dignitas. And then a year later we acquired Clutch Gaming and we went to League of Legends Worlds, which just is like I'll never
Oh,
forget
yeah.
that moment ever, which is so rewarding. Like we reverse swept TSM to get to Worlds, and that felt incredible. But yeah, I'm starting to like starting. It's been a while now, but like celebrate our team's wins and being able to support more than just the team that I played with. It was very rewarding. And then I'll also say at the same time, part of the reason too that I stopped competing is because this observing thing was taking off for me in Counter
Mm.
Strike. ESL was bringing me to more and more events. I was doing things with PGL, E League down in Atlanta, which we'd spent most of the summer there. Blast. I was traveling, and I think it was 2019, and this really worked out for my airline status because when COVID happened, they carried the statuses over for like 3 years after that. But in 2019, I had 86 flights that year.
Whoa.
So I was traveling multiple times a week for esports, and so the competing thing. It just couldn't work. I'd be letting my team down, and so now I get to go to these events and not you know stress whether I'm gonna win or lose.
Observing sounds so like I go fly places and I'm observing, but really it's a hard job, right? It's so difficult. I get to see it from the caster's perspective and but I want to hear it from you like what is number 1, how does Counter-Strike compare to Valorant observing and then like, what was your early start in observing with Counter-Strike?
Yeah, Counter Strike a lot easier to observe than Valorant, and I don't know that seems like I hate to say the word easier because I don't want to undersell like how difficult it is, but it's just more of a linear game. There's more of a flow to it, whereas Valorant, there's,
Chaos.
ultimates and people teleporting and shooting through walls and everything. So it's a little more um, hectic, and I'd say we use like more free cam than I would in Counter Strike. Um, I forgot the second part of your question because I was so getting, into detail about that.
Oh yeah, like I guess let's just talk about like your early
Yeah.
moving into observing for Counter Strike and what that was like? What were some hurdles, or what were some things that you were like, oh darn, I wish I knew this earlier rather than, now that I'm deep in the woods of it?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, and I had no idea what observing was when I was asked to do it. Um, and so and people didn't really talk about it. Like it was starting to get somewhat popular with Yanko, YNK, and then Steel were just doing some observing, and so people are talking about this role a little more, but it was still a newer position in a sense,
Mm.
and that people are getting credited it with it more. Um, I was just so worried about showing as much as I physically could, and I think over time the storytelling part of it has evolved, and I really credit working on E-League a lot with that, because I'm working along Emmy award-winning producers that are all about the narrative and not just the gameplay. And so, it's not just all the fights people are taking, but what led to that fight? What's the outcome of that fight? How are people moving and reacting based on fakes and everything? Or, what lineups are people showing? I think it's so fun to be able to watch your favorite player and then, you're at your computer already and you can load up the game and try to recreate what you just saw. Um, and we've really crafted that into pretty something pretty beautiful on the Valorant side now. Working very closely with like cinematic observers, and I'm focusing on POV observers, and like how do we take a story from a physical camera, like a camera behind a player, go into the screen, show what lineups they're doing, do overhead shots of like how are all these Molotovs and smokes and flashes coming into play, and then going to the first person and showing the action. Um, it's been fun to see that evolve over the years. It's fun to see that the community recognizes that and asks for it. It's fun that I won an Emmy right there, an Emmy trophy
Woo!
for observing. I think that's
Let's
pretty cool.
go.
One of only 4 Valorant observers in the world, and I think it's 7 observers across any game have won Emmys, so that's pretty fun. But yeah,
I didn't
it's
have that on my notes.
yeah,
So thank you, thank you.
yeah, of course. Yeah, it's super rewarding. It's very stressful, obviously. Um, you make a mistake and that moment is gone forever. And so it's a lot of pressure.
I bet. I mean, I've seen so many like we live in a generation where everyone has an opinion, and also like everyone thinks that they could do it better because they play Valorant. So I'm sure like it also has that extra pressure from the community, that because they're so passionate, right? It's a good thing. You want a community that's passionate about the game, but at what point is it too much?
Yeah, I mean, and I can understand that passion too, because I can get frustrated too watching things. I'm like, how did you miss that? I want to see that, and so that never necessarily bothers me. I think the harder part is that, we're essentially kind of doing what players are doing. Like we're reacting to different moments really quickly. Um, and the outcome of the game, like no one can predict exactly what's going to happen. Even though we see X-rays, like we don't really know what a player is about to do.
Mhm.
And so I try to liken it to the players. I mean, we can see the best players in the world have a following up right behind their enemy. They have a clear shot and then they miss, and it just happens. And I think that's the point, is that we can't, it's impossible to be 100% perfect with this. um and you also not every kill is important to show. You want to
Mhm.
kind of show the most important things. It's impossible to show everything because some fights are just so hectic and they happen, at the same time. Um, but I would say, I think the good news is the community has like a better understanding of what it is we do. I mean, I
Mhm.
will say, I say that, but then also like if replays are someone doesn't like the replays, like they immediately blame us because they just think replays equals observers, which is not necessarily the true. Or there's other things happening behind the scenes of like, who knows? Someone might have walked by me and spilled their drink all over me in the middle of the round and I can't pause, and like I fat finger a key or so.
Oh, no.
There's always like, maybe there's just some outside factors that are happening that people don't realize. A lot goes into a show.
Yeah, you have to have like extra brain cells too. I feel like as a caster, I feel like I need to have extra brain cells, and I'm only like saying what's going on round per round. But as a observer, like you have to basically, just like you said, be in the mind of the players, but also micromanage all of the players on the playing field. It's not just team A and team B.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we too can get tunnel visioned on a certain moment. Like usually the things that um we miss is just because like there's another fight that's like about to happen, and we're trying to like predict everything, and we're like, oh, I missed that like little thing that just happened on the other side of the map. Fortunately a lot of events will have replays and they can grab it, but that's not always the case. So yeah, sometimes tunnel visioning, will happen.
I don't blame you at all. I think you're perfect. I think production's always perfect. But I'm biased. So, anyways, let's talk about. I guess let's yeah, why not? Let's get into the big one, right? Which finding Radiant and like creating Radiant. What was the initial ignite that brought Radiant to life? Do you think for you?
Yeah, I mean it's really like two moments, and so one of them was it was June 2021, and we went to Riot, and we still had a women's team, Dignitas, and we said, could we run one of your Game Changers events? And they were open. I think they were like essentially RFPing each of the events that year. And so we kind of gave our pitch, and they said, yeah, let's do it. And so we hired Nerd Street, who had later run a lot of Game Changers events, simply because we had a um, Game Changers team, so like we couldn't be involved in the admin stuff. So that was, we
Mm,
kind of outsourced that to Nerd Street. But we did a lot of like different things that event, and so we had gift packages for every single one of the players. We had
that's so sweet.
T-shirts with all the teams on the back, just like a concert shirt type of thing. We gave them like power banks with game changers and other different things that we sent to them with a personalized note for every player. Um, we and this it sounds so silly now because it's so common, but we were kind of one of the first to like really officially bring in co-streamers. We
Mm,
were working closely with Twitch on this event. We were able to secure like the front page rights on Twitch for this Game Changers. And then we had some pretty big names signed up. I think even like Pokimane and such
oh
to
wow.
to co-stream that Game Changers. And so it ended up, and I still think it is to date, the most watched Game Changers NA broadcast. And so we're like, wow, okay, maybe we're kind of good at this like production thing. And
Mhm.
then a couple months later, we had talked to Psyonix. We're getting more looped into the Rocket League side on Dignitas, and we said, what if we did like a women's Rocket League event? And we happened to work in the Verizon office, and we had this like cool XR stage, and so we brought the broadcast talent there. And then we did, I don't know, it's a pretty sizable prize pool, 25 to 50,000. I don't entirely remember for Women's Rocket League, because we saw that community had a lot of potential. There were a lot of like smaller run events, and
Mhm.
it became the most participated, highest prize pool, most watched Women's Rocket League event of all time. We're like, okay, I think we got a thing here. And so we started to
Yeah.
figure out like, what we do with this. Oh, and then actually a couple months later, Blizzard came to us um, and said, hey, we're doing this thing called Calling All Heroes, Women Marginalized Gender Overwatch program. Do you want to run it with us? And we put together this like trial program. Went incredibly well. The viewership was like 40,000 concurrent viewers. And
Wow.
so yeah, through all those like individual events, we're like, okay, let's make a real company out of this. And so yeah, our focus is usually women in marginalized gender events, but not only necessarily. Like we realize we're just good at events. Like we take a lot of care in doing them. We work with a lot of contractors that aren't, most of them are women too, that aren't
Mhm.
given opportunities elsewhere, and we really believe in them. And a lot of those contractors have gone off to get full-time jobs at game publishers and other production companies, which is what we want too. We want to create a pipeline, not just for the players, but those behind the camera too. And so I don't even know where to begin, but we work on VCT Game Changers with Riot, Calling All Heroes with Overwatch. We've done Star Chasers Showdown with Psionics. We work on the Milk Cup with Gonna Need Milk. That's a $300,000 women Fortnite LAN. We'll be hosting that at TwitchCon. Um,
That's
and
insane.
then, yeah, we'll do that. And then we also have done things like Red Bull Homeground last year. Like, we had, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, it had like Sentinels and C9 and G2 and such, and maybe not G2, but we were like the first ever like all women's admin team on like a men's tier one. I don't want to call it men's because it's not necessarily men's, but it is all men there. Co-ed, co-ed event, tier one event, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, and then yeah, there's just been a lot of other like little projects along the way. We work with Clicks, the Fortnite streamer, to produce a stream on top of a mountain for him, which
What?
was
Wait, wait,
fun.
wait, wait, wait. I want to know more about this. How did this happen? Like, how did you guys like make it happen? What did it take to make that happen?
Yeah, it's and so Dignitas worked with Booga, one of the top Fortnite players, and um he works with an agency called Vayner, and Vayner's works with Clicks too, and so we got to know them, and a lot of esports is about the connections, and they said, "Hey, we need a production company for this stream on top of a ski resort to launch a new drink with Poppy." And so we sent our producer out to the ski resort in what was it? Utah or Idaho? I don't remember. And we produced a live stream out there with drones and everything. So I think it's the first Fortnite stream on top of a mountain, probably. Uh,
I need to see this. I can't believe I did
it's
not
pretty
see this.
cool.
I need to see it. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty
Sounds
cool.
like a
It's pretty
blast.
cool. And we've done a bunch of things with NRG for their Neon Dream tournament. We've done things with Repeat.gg, which is a Sony product. And we've got a bunch of things that we're announcing soon. I think our favorite, obviously, is to work with game publishers and, ask them, like, what are you doing for, women that play your game?
Mhm.
Can we help, bring a program to life with you to help support those communities?
Yeah,
And the
you
answer is often yes.
nice. Yeah, cuz it should be, right? Like there's
Mhm.
so many female identifying gamers in the gaming verse that don't get to really be represented or even be able to be a part of things just because we tend to be a little bit shyer because of how dominant it is, male dominated it is. But I'm going to go back. I'm going to take us back cuz you just lightly touched on it. Like the fact that I feel like this is a running thing with you. You do so much, and I don't. I like. I feel like you are like, yes, I'm doing all this, but you don't realize like you ran a $300,000 women event for Fortnite at LA Comic Con. How did that come about? Was it like you just threw a bunch of events for Gonna Need Milk, and then they were like, you know what, let's do this big event? Or were you like, no, we really need this because you saw the need in the Fortnite community?
Yeah, so that happened because essentially we actually had done some smaller things for there was like the Good Milk Fall Frenzy, which I think you did with us too,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. And so we did some smaller things, and then this event was coming to life with Good Need Milk and the Peach Cobbler, a Fortnite streamer, and eFuse, a tournament operator, and they said they needed a broadcast partner for this, and they were specifically looking for a group of women. They wanted this to be like women run, women led, and that's where we we fill those check boxes. So we got that message. I think it was in collaboration with Twitch too, because we were working closely with them as well as Gonna New Milk was working with Twitch, and everything just made sense. And so last year we did the broadcast. This year we're doing a lot of the adminning too. And yeah, LA Comic Con was incredible. I mean, from we're still like a small startup in the sense, despite doing all these events. So from going for like mostly remote events or like in-person panels and things like that to doing 100-person Fortnite LAN, which is probably the most challenging game there is to do a LAN for. That was
Mhm.
quite the feat. It was exhausting. I couldn't even make it to the after party because as soon as I hit the bed, I physically couldn't move. But it was so
I know.
rewarding, to be able to put on this record breaking event. I think 60% of the players had never been to a LAN before. A
Wow.
handful of those players have never even been on an airplane before, and so like that was their first travel experience too. So there's a lot in our hands, but it really inspired them. And then to see something like 430 of those players like that played in all the qualifiers and everything are back for this year too, including even more new players as well. And so yeah, this year we'll be at TwitchCon, which is just a really exciting like footprint for this event because just so many Fortnite creators are already going to be there.
Mhm.
Um, the stage looks incredible. I can't wait until we can unveil that. But it's really leveled up. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the most like monumental moments for women in esports, not just Fortnite. Once it happens.
I am so excited. It sounds like a blast. And I mean, knowing working with events in convention centers, the internet, sometimes not the best. And also, Fortnite always has updates. So, was that like some of the struggles that you had while putting the event together? Was it like,
Yeah, I mean, so the day of our LA Comic Con LAN, there was Fortnite was down globally. Not just
no?
it was down globally for 3 hours. That's an incredible amount of downtime. They had a patch, and that patch just wasn't working for
Mhm,
not just us, for anyone. And so that was definitely a learning lesson for us. We had to, we went to break screens for a while and then until we realized like I don't know when this is coming back up. Like the players are just sitting here. And so we had to for the first time like think on the fly entirely. So it's like,
mhm.
okay, who's in the audience? We had Avalie May as our stage host. We're like, okay, Avalie, this is your time. Go to work, girl. And she'd pull Booga and Kitty Cinderella, and I was like, Yvonne maybe was in the audience too. Just grabbing these different influencers that were there and talking to them. I think in most Fortnite lands you don't necessarily go through every single team, but we quickly on the fly made graphics so that we could talk about
Oh.
every single of the 100 players to fill time. Like you said, convention center internet can be like a struggle. So like trying to download all the videos of the content that we made throughout the year so we could play that too. And so now like we
Wow.
said, okay, for this year, all those files are going to be downloaded in advance. Hopefully, we have no big game updates, but yeah, we're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and it's gonna be great. I think Fortnite going down globally is not something that normally happens.
Absolutely not. Yeah. It just happened to be, hey, the universe was like, we need to know about all the players, and your
Yeah.
host needs to earn their wage. So
Mhm.
hey, shout out to the host. I know that that
Mhm.
could always be like a little panic. You're
Yeah.
like, wait, this isn't a part of the run of show. What do we do now?
Mhm.
So fair enough. All right. So you talked a little bit more about upcoming events, and I'm sure you can't give us too much, but like maybe a little bit. Is there anything that like you can like nudge at that you're like,
I mean, we're gonna get into some new games this year, and I think that's very exciting. So, I think that's all I can say. But there's gonna be some new titles that we're gonna come into pretty soon.
Ooh, I'm excited. Like, okay, you've seen all the phases of esports, right? You've seen the early start, you've seen the middle, and now we're here where it's transitioned a little bit. How do you feel for you personally it's evolved, and what are the goods and what are the bads that you see?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a good question. There's a lot of everything, and so a lot of the goods are obviously more people are aware. And I think we're moving away from those headlines. Like all the early media I did was like, oh my God, a girl plays video games professionally. Whoa. Like that was the title versus, like sapphiRe wins a world champ. I'd rather it be something like that. But, it's always the shock factor of like a woman has done this and it's like the most basic thing ever. We've moved away from that, and now you go to these events, and yeah, most recently in Toronto for VCT Masters, and there was all these like incredible like networking events. One at a boba cafe, one at I think it was like Red Bull's head a Red Bull Center. No, sorry, it was Overactive Media, which I think they have an Overwatch team. But either way, whatever. It was TVAL, Toronto Valorant. It's a community group there that runs a lot of events, and it's all operated by women. Um, and this boba shop event where all these like creators made stickers and keychains and posters that anyone could show up and have for free. The majority of those creators were all women. There was an artist alley, and this was the first time Riot, at least on the Valorant side, supported an artist alley at the event. And most of those creators were women, and it's just like so cool to see. And to me, I don't know, I don't care if the creators are women or men or not, but
Hmm.
it's so nice to see how different that is compared to years ago. Um, and I think some of I guess maybe the bad, and I don't know if it's bad, maybe it's just different from what I'd expect, is that, I was always in it for the love of the game, and that was it. And I didn't care about my brand or my following or anything.
Hmm.
Not that there was anything to follow years ago. I mean, we didn't have social really, but I was there for the love of the game. And now, um, that's not necessarily the case, and there's more like demands too on players, which makes sense too, like, and that's why I was like hesitant to say bad, because like there are these brands that are investing in this community and esports, and so to be to get on a team now, it does require more than just being really great at the game. You also have to be a great representative, for the brands, which, I mean, I was never a troublemaker either. So like I probably fit
Hmm.
those bills too, but it takes a lot more, to be at the top, I think.
Yeah, fair. I think it all just encompasses with the idea that we now need analytics, right? We need to have an ROI as well. Like there needs to be an even playground. So I get it from both perspectives. I mean,
Mhm.
a brand needs to make their money if they're going to invest in it. But do you? I guess that brings up another point, which is like, how do you feel about bigger corporations coming into the gaming space? Do you think that's good? Do you think that's bad? Do you think it's taking away from the original point of gaming, which is for us to have fun?
Um, no, I definitely think it adds for sure, because it is, um fans don't spend money basically, and that's a problem. We are so blessed to have so much like free access to free content. Like even right now, I'm already planning with my parents of like, the NFL season's coming up, and it's never been more split of like, okay, one night I need Netflix, and one night I need CBS, and one night I need Amazon Prime. It's like it's crazy. So for esports, you can just load up Twitch and or YouTube, and it's just there, and it's always there, and I don't have to pay anything for it. But that is a problem too, and that, funding these becomes, very difficult. I think, um, there's brands that come in and they drop a little money and then they head out, and it's just hard to find like that long-term growth. Um, but there's other brands like Red Bull, like Gonna Need Milk, that have committed to like multi-year projects, and they're growing communities. One of the things I always like about Red Bull too is that they support not just like they do it all. So they do like the individual players, and then they do the teams, the orgs, and then they do the events too. And so they have a big footprint there. And then, with our partner Gonna Need Milk too, like yes, they're hosting a series of 3 tournaments and a Fortnite LAN, but we've also launched like the Milk Cup Academy. We've launched these resources like editorials, Q&As with like top players or content creators, different coaching sessions, scrim analysis of your VODs and everything. And so, you know, those are my favorite brands that like really go all in, and understand the ecosystem, and they're going to see like the long-term growth, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. And we appreciate that, right? You want to feel like you're getting supported, and they also want to see gaming grow, because gaming could most gaming communities are willing to give back as long as they feel taken care of, and like they're a part of something as well. So we all want to be a part of a tribe. What would, if you could go to young sapphiRe, right? We're going to young sapphiRe and we're saying, hey, young sapphiRe, these are some things that you should do along your journey in esports. What would those things be?
Ooh, ooh, good question. First off, funny enough, I wouldn't call myself Sapphire. You can't get the handle anywhere. It's impossible. And I always reference this. One of my former teammates, Goose Breeder. No one's gonna take Goose Breeder. Like that's a great name. And so I wish I wouldn't call myself Sapphire, but it is. It's too late now. Yeah, I mean other things. Like I said, I didn't care about my brand at all. Probably a mistake. I think I should have done that a little earlier. I think. Um, I think I I probably would have, and there was like a lot of like women's communities like early days that I just kind of completely ignored. Like I was like I don't want to be recognized for my gender. I don't want to be a part of these. I don't want to be part of women's teams. Like I thought that put like a target on my back essentially. And so I tried to shy away from that. And now, years later, and I go to all these events and I meet these incredible women, and they say, and it still feels weird for me to like say, like they said they look up to me, or they like what I've done with this or that or that. And that has power and impact, and I feel the same way too about some of the women I looked up to years ago, and I wanted to be like them. And I realized that like being a role model or being more open about, my journey, I think is important for people. So I wouldn't have shied away from that. And I would have embraced it a little sooner, I think, than I did. But it all worked out. I just feel like my path was a little slower than it could have been.
Those are some great ones. And I'm like, wow, I think that a lot of us can relate in the gaming industry, because yeah, I feel I share the sentiment of being like, I don't want to, for example, this is might be such a small one and probably not even close to anything that you're talking about, but like hashtag girl gamer on social media, right? I'm like, why would I want to use that hashtag? Like that's like like you can already tell I'm a girl, like, but that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, it is a community, right? And it could bring you a new best friend, or it could bring you some sort of connection, because yeah, at the end of the day, gaming and anything really is about networking. um how do you network without it feeling uncomfortable?
Whew, it's a good question. As someone that is like inherently shy. um, that I definitely have struggled with it. Um, but I have found that like at these events, people want to have conversations. They want to get to know you and meet friends. And so I definitely, and I guess I'll reference like the Toronto Valorant Masters of like, especially because I'm juggling like multiple jobs at once. Usually a lot of these community events, I'm like, "Ah, I'm just, I don't have time for it." But I've started to embrace more going to these. Um, and meeting people and exchanging contact info and a lot of the people like not a I don't know, a handful of people that I met at the Toronto event like we're now hiring for Radiant
Mhm.
and they're doing things with them and I don't know, I didn't know anything about their background. I just knew that they were really excited about esports. And I was like, well, let's just try out a thing together, and reach out to me. But um yeah, I mean, networking is hard. I really struggle with it doing it online, but at in-person events, it's a little better just being present.
All right, we're back. We just took a
Yay.
pause. Oh, good. Okay. You were talking about networking. You were finishing your thoughts about networking.
Networking, yes. Go to the events, go to the collegiate things, go to the things your school is doing, go to, if you go to a tournament, find the boba pop-ups and things like that. People want to chat there. They want to yap. They want meet other people. So yes, go to the events is my final advice.
Nice. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's so many people that I'm like, oh, you know them? I know them. I'm a yapper, so
Mhm.
of course.
Mhm.
Uh, for me, it's not hard. I think it's more hard at like making. I don't know. I'm so big on connection and feeling like I'm connected to someone, and we have like a connection. If not, like it's hard for me to feel like we can mutually work together. I don't know. That's just me. Anyways, that's far beyond the point. But okay. So, let's say someone wants to start observing. What would your recommendation for someone who wants to start observing, whether it's in Valorant, whether it's in CS, whether it's in I don't know any other game?
Yeah. CS is definitely a little on the. It's easier to start because there's uh open IPs essentially for a lot of matches. Like you can hop in or you can download a demo and you can practice observing. Um and I even did that sometimes too, like download the demo, practice observing, record myself, and then go back and watch the live broadcast and like compare one to one of how I did versus like the observer. Valorant, there's no replays yet. I feel like I've seen public rumors that it's there's something coming, but I don't know for sure. Um, but with that, find there's tons of discords out there where people like are scrimming. There's
Mhm.
collegiate events that they need an observer for. Don't be afraid of volunteering to get started. uh I'm always like unsure exactly how to like recommend that you should volunteer your time. But again, if you have no experience whatsoever, someone's probably not going to pay you to observe. But if you can offer some of your time for a smaller event, work up your skills, build a little resume off that, build a little reel, and then you can start contacting some of the bigger organizers.
Mhm.
There's definitely not enough observers in this world still. So, and there's a lot of matches being played, so there's still opportunity. But also, um, look at the new games that come out. Like, uh, ask questions. Like Marvel Rivals is getting big. How do I
Mhm.
become a Marvel Rivals observer? Look into that. Download the game, play with the spectator tools. Whatever other new title comes out, you should be in front of the curve and start to figure out what you can do in those games because if you're the first mover, the events are going to need you.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And if you want to be involved in Radiant, how do you ask to be involved in Radiant? And what are some opportunities that Radiant offers?
It's a good question. So, if you head to our Discord, that's probably the best place. So discord.gg/Radiant, but we spell it a little funny. So Raidiant. In there, you can pop a message in the chit chat channel or send us a mod mail message. We'll send you a form that you can fill out. It's essentially like a freelancer form. Give us your info. Tell us what you want to do, what you have experience in. Um, in terms of what we're looking for, we're scaling fast, so we need everything in terms of producers or replay operators or casters or observers or analysts. But a lot of those are like more technical skills too, and if you don't have those, that's okay. If you're a person that is really well organized and can send well written emails and can make a beautiful spreadsheet, we need like project managers for little things, especially because we do a lot of like one-off events. We could just do, a 2 to 3 week trial on one little one-off event, or even things like, Twitch moderating. Like, it seems like nothing, but to a lot of our partners, having a well-moderated channel is very, very important. And if you can do a really nice job with that, that shows that we can trust you to handle, even more on these bigger projects. So yeah, reach out, tell us what you like to do. I can't promise we'll always have something, but we're growing and we're gonna need more people. So something eventually will happen.
That sounds exciting, and yeah, I could speak volumes about Radiant, and I think everyone should be involved with Radiant in one way or another. Words of encouragement for women and women identifying in the gaming space. What are some things that you got?
Yeah, so, first off, don't let anyone tell you don't belong, because you do belong, and there's a place for everyone here. I genuinely believe that. I think esports and gaming, despite, there's always some bad eggs. There's bad eggs in every single facet of life, unfortunately. But there's more, good than bad. It's by far the most like inclusive, diverse thing I've ever seen or been a part of. Um, so do that. Um, find your local events, go to them, and not just like sit in a chair and watch the tournament. Find what community event is happening, or networking session or meet and greets. People want to meet others there, and especially in your local community. I feel like it's so fun. And maybe I live in LA now, so like, there's a lot of esports in LA, but back when I go visit my parents or something in Wisconsin, and I hear someone talking about, or saying, wearing a shirt about Valorant, or talking about Counter-Strike, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that person exists here in little Wisconsin. And people get really excited community as them. So yeah, don't shy away from that.
I mean, we're back, and we were gonna open it up for questions. So hopefully we have friends here, and if you guys have any questions for Heather, right now is the perfect moment to ask her. Favorite game of all time.
Hmm, it's so hard. I think it still has to be Counter Strike. I I love that. I love Valorant. I hope no one's watching from Valorant. It's just, and I think a lot of the people that made Valorant too would credit that, of like Counter Strike, created this entire new title, and concept, and I don't know. There's just so much depth. I love that people have been playing like the same map for 20 years, and you still have to find like different ways to to outstrat your opponent. I think that's super fascinating. So yeah, long live Counter Strike.
The fact you just said that made me think about Ascent and how like I hate Ascent because like it felt like so stale for the longest time. And like I can only equal that to Counter Strike now in my brain. Cause it's like, oh gosh. Yeah.
Just imagine if Ascent's around for the next 20 years.
I hope not, because we keep saying it in the map pool, and I'm like, please just get rid of it.
Mhm.
We need something new. Um,
Mhm.
that how is it observing the new map Corrode? Corrode? Is that how you say it?
Corrode. Yeah, we got like a small early access to it in Toronto, so I got a little sneak peek. Um, I've done 3 games on it so far in VCT Americas. I think the first one was a little rough. There's just a lot of um, I guess wall spams, which I like. I think it's super fun, part of the game dynamics, but it makes observing a little harder. But I've started to get in the flow of it. I think we're starting to see teams doing a few more like tricks. I've seen um, there's going to be some interesting things I think done with sage walls. What I've heard from some of the
Mm,
coaches, so I'm very excited for champs. I think we're going to see a lot of creativity on the map.
nice. I can't wait. All right, we have another question. Have you casted any game you think is boring to watch?
um Well, first I'll just like correct that a little, and that I haven't necessarily casted, probably observed. I have done analyst desk before, but I still casting is just too much. I know we were talking at the beginning of like being shy on camera. I can do an interview like this all day, but if you ask me to cast, absolutely not. But yeah, in terms of games that are boring to watch, I mean, yeah, it happens. I'm gonna not gonna name teams or names or moments necessarily, but there can be some matchups that just maybe a little either one-sided or lacking maybe some creativity or using the same agent pool all the time. And I guess, by definition that can be a little more boring than some of the other games, but it's just part of you know, it's just part of esports. Like just like watching sports, every game's not going to be the most exciting, and that's okay.
Yeah, if you're a fan, you'll watch though.
Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
you're labeled the truest fan. Can you give us like the most hype moment that you observed? Is that Do you have any?
Yes. My favorite moment ever was the E League Major in Boston that Cloud9 won the championship, the major. Obviously, American teams winning uh, majors, any event really, big event, international event in Counter Strike is pretty rare. And so to be on home turf, to be a fan favorite team, to go to 3 maps, to go to overtime, and to be able to observe like one of the most historic moments in esports history. I was like, and I never try to necessarily have biases, but it was just like so caught up in the emotions. I'm literally like shaking, and I can feel like tears from the emotions in those final rounds that I was observing. So that is by far my favorite game of all time.
Nice. Okay, I forgot to mention this in the regular podcast, but you were a ball girl in your college years. Okay, I don't even know. I know nothing about this. So, how did you get the job? And like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I work with the Milwaukee Brewers. I was a varsity softball player, and so I believe they had reached out to schools in the area saying we're looking for girls that are good at throwing a baseball. And I tried out, and I was good enough, and so I made the team. It was pretty cool. I mean, you got to sit in the dugout before the game alongside the players, and then during the game you sit on the sidelines, you get the foul balls, you save, children from getting a foul ball to the face,
Oh,
and then you warm up the outfield, and so you play catch with them. Um, I think that's what helped me be more confident in esports because. I don't know how many people fit in an MLB stadium. 50,000, I don't know. 50,000 fans are watching you play ball as a high school college girl like with MLB players.
that's
It's a lot of
crazy.
pressure.
Yeah, and like, would they throw like super hard, or were they considerate and were like a little more careful?
I mean, it depends on the guy. Some guys really needed that warm up, so they'd fire it at you. Other people
Oh
just
my
wanted to kind of like
gosh.
toss it.
Hmm.
Um, some like very few times, but sometimes it would go over their head and they'd have to chase it, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to just die right there. It was so embarrassing, but I think that was very few and far in between, fortunately.
I could see that like giving you confidence to be in a more male dominated, because that is the definition of, being in a group, in a team full of boys, and you're just like, hey, yeah, and especially like professionals. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
this
not
is the best
imagine.
in the world. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the most iconic outfielders of all time. Like I had to play catch with, and it was so scary, but it was really fun. Yeah. So that's usually my fun fact is that I was a ball girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found it and I was like, "Oh, I have to mention this. Like, this is so good." And then
Mhm.
your little costume, but I didn't really know
Well,
what
I
that
was a
was about.
mascot. I did a mask. Once you got kind of get in as the ball girl, you can be part of the events team, and so they have a mascot there. That's the racing sausages in Milwaukee. And during the seventh inning, they race around the field, or they do appearances. So sometimes I preferred doing the ball girl stuff, but sometimes I would be a racing sausage.
I love
So.
it. That's so unique.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
did you
Exactly.
get paid good?
Yeah.
Was there any money?
No, I think it was like
Oh,
7 an hour. So
oh, okay. Well, I
but
you had the
that was a long time
experience.
ago. Yeah, I think, whatever, that was probably minimum wage at that time, but it was just a cool job. And
Yeah,
and I didn't want to work a different job because I I think with that position I could just pick and choose the games I wanted to work and that was it. And then I could still be a pro gamer. So I was
right.
fine with that.
Which was the real job. All
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Any last questions for Heather before we say goodbye? Um, and then Heather, what are you gonna have for dinner?
I don't know. I'm thinking, um, bulldog ramen. So I've kind
Yes.
of fallen in love with bulldog ramen, and I like to enhance it.
Okay.
Maybe cut up some onions, put some, soft-boiled eggs in there, add some
Mm,
chili crisp. So I've been, yeah, leveling up my bulldog ramen.
that sounds amazing. Okay, so I have this running joke where I don't finish a lot of games because I keep going back to Valorant. So they're asking, is there any strat to get me to finish any game?
I am the worst person to ask for this because I don't play those kind of games. I only play competitive games. I have zero, absolutely zero, in fact, like negative interest in any kind of like story game or whatever. It is so not for me. I feel like I need to just. The thing I like about competitive games is I really feel like I'm outsmarting
Mm,
another human. Like yes, I can maybe quicker reaction, but I really, really like the tactical component and strategy component of those games. And so I completely support you going back to Valorant. I am so sorry to
thank you.
beware, but it is not for me.
Thank you, thank you. I know it's so hard. It's such a love-hate relationship. I mean, even
Mhm.
with me like casting it and hosting, I'm like, I really like it. And then I feel like at some point I'm like, I need a break. And you probably get that as well, where it's like, I need to take a step back.
Yeah.
And then like I come back to it and I'm like, I love this. This is great. Why did I ever leave? And then after a while, I'm like, okay, I need a break. So yeah. Anyways, that's the point. All right. Y'all stop bugging Heather. I will finish the games. I will get to it. But thank you, Heather, for your time with us. I know we, planned it and we finally made it happen. So I hope that if you're at home watching this in the future or currently here sitting with us, that you take a strat or two and you find inspiration in Heather's story. And I'm sure, Heather, you already said it, but we can always nudge you and be like, hey, how do you do this or how do you do that, right? Is that okay?
Please do. Please do. I am slow to reply, but I do reply. And so DM me anytime. Twitter's usually best, sapphiRe GG. But I also do the TikTok and Instagram thing too. But please nudge me. I love talking about this stuff.
Thank you for watching another episode of What's the Strat? Go, we
Thank
did
you. We did
it!
it.